And welcome back to the Black Psychologist Podcast. We want to thank everybody for listening. Welcome. It's episode 10. So appreciate
10.
everybody listening, watching, and rocking out with us. I am one half of your host. I am Dr. Kyle Osborne, your host and clinician. And of course, I'm not here by myself. I'm here with the one and only, every woman's dream, every man's nightmare,
Come on.
Dr. Jason Coleman.
Yeah.
Here we are, good brother.
Yeah, you wow. What's up, bro? How you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. At the beginning of another week, here we are. We want to thank everybody again for listening. Here we are. Again, we're on YouTube. We're on Spotify. We're on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, everywhere. So definitely appreciate everybody listening. We see the number of subscribers is continuing to grow. Please continue to comment. We appreciate all the feedback from you guys. So so here we are, back for another one.
Episode 10. Definitely thankful for everybody who took the time to listen. Again, please continue to subscribe, like the videos, or just listen. But please, leave a comment, suggestions for the next one, or just a comment on the topic. But yeah, man, it's number 10, man. It's number 10, so that's good.
It's train's rolling, man. And before we get into the topics, I want to start off and give a quick acknowledgement to, unfortunately, there was another death, another loss in the hip hop community. Last week, we talked about the life of DMX, and unfortunately, someone else that was also during his time of, in the late 90s, early 2000s, Black Rob. We got news that he had passed away, unfortunately, due to some health issues that he had been battling and dealing with for the past few years. So, most people know Black Rob for the hit song "Whoa," and he was part of that bad boy movement of the late '90s, early 2000s. So, another hip hop artist gone way too soon. So, definitely want to express acknowledgement, condolences, and thoughts and prayers to his family and anyone else that was affected closely by his loss. So I just want to throw that out there.
I mean, that's a fact. Definitely that was, disheartening news to get. Again, when you think about Bad Boy, you can't think about Bad Boy without, Black Rob. Just me personally, listen, man, Can I Live and Life Story was one of my two favorite songs, period. The joint with Can I Live with the Locks. I mean, and Black Rob is one of the, to me, I mean, it's just a classic joint, and it's one of those songs that it brings you back to a specific place in time. You know what I mean? And I think that's the thing about music, right? And a lot of people can relate to "Whoa," so I'm gonna just talk about "Whoa." That wasn't necessarily my song like that, but
I know a lot of people doing this.
I was listen. When it came on in the club, I got hyped like everybody else. It just wasn't, I just had other joints in the catalog I like. But my point is, most people can think about whether they was in college or whether they was this place or that place or spring break when that song was popular. So, definitely condolences to his family. And again, it's like, the impact that these hip hop artists and just the art form in general has had on so many of our lives, and it's kind of like you see that after death, right? Because nationally and in some cases internationally, they're celebrating these people, who've been our heroes for a long time, at least some of us. So definitely want to shout that out before we get into it,
Yeah, you got to keep in mind in both situations with X and with Rob is that they're young. Talking these guys are in their 50s, so we definitely want to continue to emphasize everybody. Please make sure you're taking care of yourself with your health, because this health thing is real. It doesn't discriminate. It absolutely doesn't discriminate. And so people, a lot of people are dealing with a lot of health issues, and of course with COVID being the most prominent, but just our overall health. So guys, we definitely want to express and emphasize, please make sure you're seeing your physician, getting things checked out, getting blood work, because this health thing is real, and it's not promised.
Especially for Black men. You know what I mean? Shortest life expectancy in the United States. So, definitely something we need to take care of. I mean, we're going to kind of talk about that too when we get to the second article. Just kind of starting first, kind of seems like we revisiting this topic a lot. But again, another police shooting of an unarmed Black man, 20 years old. We've been in Minnesota a lot, right?
Yeah.
This time it's in Brooklyn Center. Everybody's aware of the George Floyd trial that's going on right now, kind of hovering over this whole thing. But basics, we all kind of know what has happened. Most people probably have seen the video. Daunte Wright, he was driving. They say he was on the phone with his mom. He got stopped for expired tags, traffic violation. You see the officer get him out of the car. At some point, he starts to kind of resist and run. And then you see like a couple of other officers into the picture. It's a struggle. You hear the female officer, threatening to tase him, and the gun goes off, right? Again, the controversy here, and we've seen all the memes, on Instagram about what does a taser look like versus what does a gun look like, right? So we have a lot of different issues in this case, but what did you think about it first? Another unarmed Black man, 20 years old, killed without a weapon. I haven't seen a gun. Did they find a gun?
Nah, not to my knowledge.
Okay, I was just making sure that I was still conscious.
What, of course, through the like you said in the video, the officer repeats, "Oh, I think I shot him. I think I shot him." And the fact that we're losing another young Black male to law enforcement, right? And what I kept seeing also, in addition to the memes, is the other side, right? We see the other side of people that are standing up or that are arguing against the fact, and they keep saying, "Well, it was a mistake. It was a mistake." And my thing is, how many mistakes is it going to be, right? How many mistakes is it going to be where an African American Black person, male or female, is losing their life, right? So it's, "Oh, I thought it was my taser." In other situations, "Oh, I thought the assailant, when Breonna Taylor, I thought no one else was home," right? "Oh, I thought that all that, I didn't know the person couldn't breathe." All these other mistakes that I continue to hear. Well, each time a mistake is taking place, quote unquote, somebody's losing their life. So that's the issue. That's you know what I mean. It's getting old. I don't buy it by any means. Because a life is being learned. So if someone makes a mistake, they're going home. Another you know what I mean, on the other end of that is that someone lost their life, a whole family's life and framework has been completely changed. So
right.
I'm not buying the mistake because it's costing people's lives. And even more of this is that this was a training officer that was assigned to, showing less trained officers, right, what to do. So it's just, that's the most disheartening. Well, not the most disheartening, but that's the even more, all of them, kind of like, you had someone who's supposed to know what to do. So you're making this mistake, right? So that's something that's even more troubling for me, that I just don't buy, man. And I'm tired of the mistake. I'm tired of excuses being made where you make a mistake, quote unquote, but someone else is losing their life over this mistake.
I was in a rush this morning, right, to get to work. I put on my brown belt instead of my black belt. I made a mistake. That's a mistake, right? Mm-hmm. Cashier gives me back 50 cents instead of a quarter. That's a mistake. This is incompetence. She would know if she grabbed her handcuffs, she would know it wasn't a service weapon, right? The reason why those memes were making rounds the way they were is because of how absurd the argument is. I thought I tased him. No, you shot him. You shot him.
Yeah.
And now we playing Monday morning quarterback in terms of trying to try the case right there on the side of the road, right? Because you've taken somebody's life. But again, this is what I think. This was a traffic stop, right? So it's a traffic violation. The kid was supposed to get a ticket and go home, right? Mm-hmm. Now they said they stopped him for expired tags. I'm looking in an article that's saying that the DMV has a backlog of 3 months. So there's no telling that even if he wanted to, there's no telling that he didn't try to get the expired tag taken care of, right?
Right.
And then nobody knows if he tried to, whether he would have been able to do it, right? But forget the tags, because what we're really talking about is the bigger issue of Black life being cheap in America, right? Because I watched a video of a guy in a car, okay, and a lot of people have probably seen it, in a truck. This is a Caucasian man, drag a police officer around a parking lot this weekend with the cop hanging in the car. And they arrested him without harming a hair on his head. You understand? So what we're talking about is Black and brown life is not valued in this country, right? And like I had mentioned to you before, it doesn't, first of all, it's an unarmed Black man being killed. I don't want to hear the argument on the other side about comply. Doesn't matter, right? Because if we look in Chicago this weekend, we got Adam Toledo. He complied. He turned around, dropped the gun, put his hands up, and got shot in the chest. So with some of these police officers, it does not matter. They have fear. The face is what they're scared of.
Right.
You know, this face and your face. And unfortunately, we've been dehumanized in this country to the point where they can kneel on your neck for 8 minutes in public, and we'll be having a debate about whether you caused your own death if you're George Floyd, right? Because if we go by the narrative here, Derek Chauvin made a mistake too, right? There's too many mistakes going on, and the mistakes are costing me, my children, right? My nieces, my nephews, right? So again, I don't mean to go on a tangent, but I don't know if it would have made a difference if he would have complied. I don't know. The kid in Chicago dropped the gun, turned around with his hands up, and got shot in the chest. I don't care what he was doing before that. The officer said, drop the gun, he drops it, he gets shot in the chest. Somebody explain that to me. Black life is cheap in America.
I'm also tired and frustrated and kind of exhausted from hearing it's just a few bad apples, right? It's just a couple bad apples. Well, no, you know what? In a situation such as this, right, where you have the training officer who's showing these other less experienced officers of how to handle this traffic stop, right? And if this is what is being trained, if this is what's being, fed down to less experienced officers, you don't have bad apples. You have a rotten tree.
Right. She was a 26 years on the force.
And if you're training here, and here's the thing, I'm never going to sit here and pretend to be, law enforcement and act like in a day in the life or anything of that nature. So, I took it upon myself to say, all right, well, let's see how, since it was a mistake and she has all this, she's a training officer, she has all this year of experience. So looking at, what researchers and law enforcement have said as far as how is it difficult or is it easy to mistaken your taser from your gun, right? And you know what? That theory was not supported at all, across the board. They say, a lot of researchers and other law enforcement stated that it's very difficult, for you to confuse the two weapons. One is bright yellow and it's lightweight, right? The other one, again, your gun, if anyone's ever held a gun, you know how heavy it is compared to anything else, right? And most officers, especially senior officers, wear it on the opposite sides of their belt, right? So they wear the taser on their offhand and they wear their handgun on their dominant hand.
Right.
So if you're training, right, officers that do have all this experience and such, and I would imagine she would be practicing. So and that's the whole point of having the taser on your offhand is so you don't make the mistake, right?
Now, let me ask you
difference. It's like, if my taser is on my left hand, or is on my left side, then I know I'm going to grab it on my left hand. So what gun you're pulling out with, right? I don't want to hear that I made a mistake. Like, no, like I'm not buying that.
I'm glad you did that research, right? Because that was a learning experience for me. Now, let me ask you this. How long did it take you to learn all that?
How long at all?
An hour?
Not long at all, if that.
She been on the force 26 years. You just taught me that.
Right?
Listen, it's incompetence. It's incompetence. And to even say it's incompetence is letting her off the hook, to be honest with you. It's a culture of, it speaks to a bigger issue, and it's a culture of Black life being cheap in America. And you can extinguish a Black person, you can murder them, a Black or Latinx person, on camera, okay? And then paint them as the crazy drug addict, the crazy gang member, the crazy person, right? Even without a gun, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go back to George Floyd's trial. Go back to Eric Garner's trial. There's not, listen, it's not out of the ordinary that we see similarities in both of those trials, right? They spun a narrative that these were two out of control, crazy, intimidating Black men, right? You go all the way back to Mike Brown. He had the devil in his eyes. Remember that?
Yeah.
The police officer said he had the devil in his eyes. So this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with individuals who are policing our neighborhoods who are scared of us. And they have lethal weapons, and again, we've already been dehumanized in this country. So that's why it's so easy to kill us.
Yeah. They made it okay for you to shoot Black people and you'll be fine. You'll get off. You'll go through whatever steps and whatever things, and you're going to come out on the other side of it.
Right. So, I mean, I ain't really got too much more to say about that. I'm sure we'll be revisiting this topic. But again, like I said, this dissonance I have all the time because I talk to teenagers, African-American teenagers, Latino teenagers about how to deal with the police, okay? And I'm gonna be very honest with you. I do not tell them just comply. I give them advice, good advice, but I never tell them just trust whatever the police officer tell you and that's gonna be okay, right? Because I can't say that in good conscience. I can't say that in good conscience. I have to just talk to them about my experiences and what has helped me through certain situations, but I don't know because I know my trust level is very low in law enforcement.
No, it's more, unfortunately, it's to the extent of survival, right? It's like, this is how you survive a police encounter. Like,
right.
And it's almost like it's scary and it's really, it's disheartening to say, but it's like you're hoping that this is going to go well, right? You're hoping that you're just going to go through no issues, but you don't know. Even if your papers, like it used to be a thing where like, you know what, when I got pulled over, like there was some relief of that, you know what, all my papers are straight. I got my insurance, my license, you know what I mean? Everything's straight, I'm good. So this should go without an issue. I don't feel that way anymore. It's been a long time since I felt like that. And I feel like the book that my mom gave me when I started driving, The Driving While Black, right? That book that she gave me is just as important as it was then, even more now. And in fact, that book might be outdated because everything that I read in that book won't make a damn difference if I go along with everything that was instructed. And that book was very helpful because it was very enlightening because she gave it to me like this. I got to teach my son how to survive or how to deal with encounters in the police. But that book is outdated. Everything that they talk about, the content of that book, it doesn't matter, unfortunately, because like you said, like you can do everything you're supposed to do and things can still go left, right? You could still end up losing your life.
Right. Bro, the law does not work that way. Police officers have to approach every encounter like the person they're approaching is going to run. Right? It's my God-given right to run. It may be against the law, but I can run. Now, in response to me running, because you can't keep up with me, you can't pull out your service weapon and shoot me in the back. You can't get angry with me because I made you run 5 miles and then shoot me in the back, right? There's still rules that you have to follow. So my whole point is the kid gets pulled over for tags and he decides he don't want to go to jail that day and he want to wrestle around for a little bit. I saw 3 police officers out there and he's dead. I saw 3 police officers out there and he's dead. And from the video I saw, he looked like a child to me.
Yeah.
You could have subdued him.
Yeah.
So that's why I said, let's move on, because we're not really debating facts here. We're debating, to me, a bigger issue.
Yeah, so we'll stay tuned as that continues to unfold and information comes out. So, again, hearts and everything and thoughts and prayers go out to his family and that whole community in Minnesota, because it sounds like Minnesota definitely has a problem.
Yeah, they're going through a lot right now.
Absolutely. So, so moving on to a feel good article that came across. So there's been a growing number of Black yoga practitioners who are viewing and using yoga as a way to for Black men to address emotional and physical health disparities in their community. And I gotta say, man, reading this article, I love it. I love everything about this. You alluded to it a little earlier when we talked about health, right? Especially with Black men, lowest life expectancy. We got, we're 60% more likely to die from stroke, 30% more likely to die from heart disease, 10% more likely to experience psychological stress, and unfortunately, a way higher probability to die from law enforcement, as we just talked about. So, I'm loving this, man. I'm happy that that this article came across, and you got more individuals getting involved in yoga, and as they call it broga, yoga for brothers. So I like this idea, man. I'm happy that this came across your desk. What did you think about it as you were reading through it?
I mean, I thought it was a good thing, partly because I've experienced it firsthand in terms of, they were just talking about the medical psychological benefits of yoga. We all know, we've talked about it on here before. Yoga is a form of mindfulness, focus on, your breath, concentration, being in the present moment, and all of the stretches and different, different things. I'm not gonna act like I know everything about it, I'm kind of built out from that concept, but just under the umbrella of mindfulness, it's very beneficial in terms of stress relief, and stress, anxiety, depression, all of those things. And then if we look in our community, when we talk about high blood pressure, diabetes, eating habits sometimes that aren't so good, getting our body moving, and kind of getting that kind of work in, can just help us in a variety of ways, and they were just kind of talking about ways, I guess, that these instructors were making it more culturally relevant, the images on the walls and the music and stuff. And I think that's a good thing, because listen, I practice vinyasa yoga, hot yoga. I like it, you know what I mean? But I'm not gonna lie, I'm always the only Black man in there, you know what I'm saying? And 9 out of 10 times I'm the only Black person. Sometimes there's 1 or 2 females in there, which is cool. I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel uncomfortable. I'm used to that from graduate school and every other place I've been. In terms of higher education, but in terms of creating these cultural sensitive spaces, I think it would make it more inviting, for individuals from our community to kind of engage.
Yeah, I like that aspect of things, and I also like you just talked about it, you're usually in the minority when you're doing yoga, and I feel like that's also a common myth and a misconception that yoga is only for a certain class of people, right? Because a lot of times, one, you only see yoga in certain neighborhoods, so when you have a situation where certain activity that has been shown to be so helpful physically, mentally, emotionally, and it's only being offered to one particular demographic of people because it's only available in a certain area, then we have a problem here. So I'm happy that, again, they made it more inviting. So like you said, they have the music, they have on the wall, you're not being judged over your physical appearance, right? Because as you see, usually on TV and movies, like you said, you see yoga and it's predominantly with, white people, male or female, mostly female. And so I'm happy, when they talked about an article, a person is coming in and not being judged by their appearance, right? You're gonna be able to come in here with some ball shorts, a t-shirt, and you're able to do your thing, right? You're getting that sense of community. right? When you see
Right.
other people around you, and that's what draws people in. Like, so you're doing away and you're mitigating that preconceived mold or notion of what and who yoga is for. Like anything that can be helpful to our community, to people in general, we should also be getting that exposure. So I'm happy that they're making it like, very user friendly. The atmosphere and the culture is inviting, and it's like, it's bringing people in, and that's the way it's supposed to be. And one of the intangibles that I really appreciated was that they offer free free childcare, right?
Right.
So they
Right.
offer free childcare, free yoga mats. I believe it's like through a donation or anything that you're able to pay. Like it's really cool, and it's really inviting and friendly, because when we want to do these things, right, that's one of the barriers that gets in the way, right? You want to get healthy, you want to maybe try yoga, you maybe want to try Zumba or these other different, treatment things. But sometimes people aren't able to because, I got my kid with me, so I can't take the person to the class, or money, or all these other different things. And I like the way that they're, you know, dealing with those intangibles that get in the way, or that could be, real barriers. I mean, not everybody has money for this and can travel and have to find people to watch their kids. So I'm really happy that they're addressing that element of things, and now you're making it more feasible for people to attend the class. So man, this is big, man. I'm loving this idea.
I mean, I think that'll definitely encourage more people to go. I mean, they didn't really talk about this in the article, but I was just, in terms of thinking about it, I was just wondering, like, kind of how they're funding it, right? Because, like, whether this is just something that they're doing, like whether they have do business another place, and this is just something that they're doing for the community, whether they have a grant or something. Because, again, that's another reason why I'm not trying to be funny, but you kind of see SES, you kind of see individuals with like a higher socioeconomic status in these classes, right? Because yoga could be like, some of these yoga classes would be like $150 a month for these packages.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Now, again, there are places where they try to make it affordable, like what they were talking about in this article, and it's like the drop-in class where you just have a donation, right? But for most studios, they'll do that like once a week for 1 hour. You know what I mean? Like that's Wednesday at 4:30 to 5:30, and then every other hour is part of the package.
Yeah.
And these things get pretty expensive. So I'm just wondering, again, I'm not saying who can afford it and who can't, because I don't have any idea. I'm just wondering how they're putting together the program, because if you had a situation where you could offer it, for free or at a reduced rate, to kind of get more people to be exposed, that would be a good thing,
Yeah. I mean, I imagine, like you said, they didn't really provide those details, but I imagine it's like a nonprofit. A lot of times when you're charging and goes to a donation, you can, make it and have like a nonprofit situation, and you're able to offer those type of things. But that's good. I'm hoping that, and you're starting to see this a little bit more, like in schools. Some certain schools
Right.
starting to introduce mindfulness yoga. I feel like if it's something that we introduce to kids in these lower SES, it's if they're getting, exposure to it at a younger age, then it's not so foreign, right? Then you're able to be like, hey, you know what? I did this when I was younger. It was helpful. And then they're more, it's more of a higher probability that they're going to be able to say, maybe seek out. And then if it's in their own community, even better. So I'm hoping this continues to be a growing trend. And, my hat goes off to both of these yoga practitioners. I think something they also mentioned was with more practitioners, more Black practitioners, than more people. So which makes sense, right? If you got somebody that looks like you got more education, like that makes such a huge difference, right? If you got someone that the practitioners or the instructors, are Black also, especially Black males, then it's like, all right, yeah, because then it turns in that sense of community gets even stronger. You're coming in, you're hearing the music, you're having, regular conversations about different things before and after class or during. So, it makes it more friendly. You feel more home, feel comfortable. So, I'm happy that the percentage of yoga practitioners is growing also with this.
I mean, you're exactly right. Again, I don't have anything to add to that. I was going to say the same thing, just personal experience. I've seen very few yoga teachers of color. The ones I have seen, they've all been females, great teachers, I've been happy to see them in class when I did see them. But I only bring it up to say I haven't seen any males. You know what I mean? So, it's just one of those things where we go back to representation, right? And again, because even though I saw, some females of color teaching the class, it definitely wasn't. It's not enough to even say it's approaching equal representation. So again, it's just one of these things where I see people that I interact with, and we're just talking anecdotally, like not resistant, but just curious, right? So when I tell people I do yoga, they always look at me like I got four heads on my shoulders. And then they'll say one or two things I'm not gonna really repeat right now, because ignorant. But those are my friends. But then when I talk to like kids and stuff about it, they like, they'll probably make a comment, like and laugh and joke, but then they're intrigued, like they want to know a little bit more. You know what I mean? And that comes from, them being like, oh, well, Dr. J do it. You know what I mean? So they just want to know a little bit more. And then when we talk about trauma, the benefits in terms of, teaching some of these skills to the clients, I could go on for hours about that because I use it in practice now. But again, a good thing. So, anybody who has never taken a yoga class, just want to encourage you to make that your pandemic promise. Make that what you're going to change during the pandemic, that you're going to try one yoga class.
Yeah, and you know what? And the thing is, you can also try it in privacy of your own home, right? Like they have yoga classes on YouTube. So you can try that. Like you said, if money is an issue, just doing something that, like you said, it's helpful, and reducing stress, your trauma. And then also for the guys, I know, like you said, sometimes you get comments and different things, because I've gotten them too. Listen, man, I'm going to meet you where you're at, right? Yoga has a lot of females in those classes. I'm just saying. So,
well, again,
you go to yoga,
that,
and sometimes we gotta be
that.
we gotta motivate them in there. So, you meet some nice young ladies that, got the head on straight at yoga. So, just that's also an additional benefit to the health, of course.
Oh yeah.
But absolutely, like you said, you're outnumbered. Ain't nothing better than being in there and, you representing, I'm just throwing that out.
Listen, if you meet somebody in there, they got healthy habits and, they're working on their emotional regulation. You're halfway home.
There you go.
All right,
man. Staying with the creative arts and staying with health.
Right.
Another feel-good article involves a hip hop musician from Chicago on the South Side. He's helping fund mental health services while also combating food insecurity. His coffee shop. So I'm liking this also. And as I was reading the article, like he's using his coffee shop to normalize therapy. So he holds coffee house style events at his place of business, and then he connects people in need of therapy with therapists. So this is prompted by his own experience in therapy, and he uses, for folks that are reaching out that are in need of therapy, the proceeds from his events go when they actually pay for people to get therapy. So it kind of offsets the cost and such. So again, I couldn't be more happier knowing that, this is taking place, especially on the South Side of Chicago. So, what were your thoughts as you were reading this? What's your take?
Oh, this is excellent. Anybody who hasn't, check out the website, Coffee, Hip Hop, and Mental Health. Again, like their goal, educate and find mental health services while combating food insecurity. I mean, they are literally connecting people with therapists for free of charge. It's doing a lot. We're talking about stigma, reducing stigma. I mean, you're getting people together to kind of talk about these issues and put them out on the forefront, normalize some of these issues. I mean, again, I think it's a big deal. I didn't think about this when I was reading this, but I believe it was these guys, because this concept is very unique. But I was at, I don't know if it was Winona's House Conference for Child Abuse and Neglect last year at Montclair State. I think they were there, or another conference. And they were kind of just talking about what they do. And listen, man, And if it wasn't, it was a similar organization. So shout out to them too. But the bottom line is, this is something that was funded by this guy, Christopher Lamarck, after he went through, some experiences on his own. And he kind of said that what saved him was hip hop, and therapy. And I just, man, this kind of story just kind of warms my heart because, hip hop has always been an outlet for me. And, in terms of mental health, and kind of what it has done in terms of, helping me help other people and then helping me kind of change things about myself too, and do a deep dive in myself. I'm just grateful, right? But I think this is a great thing. And again, if anybody hasn't checked out this website, it's Coffee, Hip Hop, and Mental Health.
Yeah, again, this guy and his organization is addressing some of the barriers because there are a lot of people that want to get treatment or get help. And once you get past the barrier of stigma, it's financial, right? So we have to always keep that in consideration. There are plenty of people that do want to get treatment, but sometimes they're not able to afford it. Various insurances are going to maybe pay for all of it, or maybe only a few sessions or a half or copay, all these other different things. And, we have to keep that in mind. And if you are able, you're fortunate enough to find an organization such as this, which is going to pay for you to go to therapy, like that's gold.
It's big, man.
That's some of the things that I'm hoping with this story that more people are picking up. I'm even, as I was reading this, I'm just like, damn, what, why didn't I come up with this? Something like that. Like this is an idea, you want to pass out to other organizations or other therapists or private practices that we're knowledgeable of, because you want to bring in and get as many people support and treatment as possible. And I also like the aspect that this helps build partnerships within the community, right? So you have his coffee shop is connecting with other organizations that want to connect with patients, with potential clients, and everybody's getting involved and everybody's winning. So yeah, this is definitely a network that I hope continues to build and continues to grow. This is a great idea that I know I'm going to pass on to other people. His website, and just hopefully more innovative ideas can continue to come from these ideas. So this is great, man. I love this.
Yeah, definitely. Especially, we know Chicago is a lot going on out there. A lot of positive things, but then also a lot of violence. So a lot of people with trauma out there. So it's a good thing,
Absolutely. And before we get out of here, I saw some research that came across the desk, and I wanted to get your input on it, right? So some research has shown that the active ingredient, psilocybin, which is an active ingredient in magic mushrooms, we all know what those are, have been found to be useful in treating depression, anxiety, and mood disorders. These magic mushrooms can get your brain back to where it was before the feelings of depression set in. So, question for you, Dr. J. If more research has gone through and it goes through FDA approval and all those different things, would you prescribe mushrooms for your patient?
Well, I'm not prescribing anything, but what I'll tell you is,
certain states, man, you never know.
No. I'm just playing. Listen, I read that like 4 or 5 times when I was reading this article. FDA approved.
Right.
You know how much time you probably would have got for getting caught with some mushrooms in this country 3 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, FDA approved. It's just crazy how far we come, right? I understand. I thought it was crazy at first when I looked at it on the surface, just looking at the title, right? I think it's crazy,
bro.
when I look at the science behind it, and they start talking about the rewiring of the brain, specifically when we talk about depression and mood disorders, I get it, and I get why it could be affected. Now, one question I have is, like, regardless of who you give this to, I'm very sure that it has to be administered in a very controlled environment. You're not going to give somebody mushrooms and send them home, or give them mushrooms and allow them to drive home. So my thing is, like, how are you going to regulate that? You know what I mean? Because I mean, are you just going to give people mushrooms and then they're going to go sit in a room and they got to be monitored for an hour before they can leave? You understand where I'm getting at?
Absolutely, yeah.
Because we're talking about, I mean, we psychedelics, you know, we all know what the fear is people having a bad trip, you know? I wouldn't know either way, but that is always the fear, right? When we see people under the influence of that, it can go left. So how do you control for that besides just whether or not somebody is honest about, you know, their history? You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like there's definitely going to have to be in the manner of practice of how that's going to be, if it does come to fruition, FDA approval and everything of that nature, that administration or administering this ingredient or the mushrooms overall is definitely going to have to be, like you said, in a controlled environment, maybe in an inpatient setting or something rather. Because like you said, taking someone else, there's going to, every medical treatment has side effects. It's just the way it works, right? So that you're going to have to really take in consideration of how when you're you know administering this to a client of what are all those different things. So I'm curious to see and follow and see how this is, you know, this is going to continue to develop. You know, when I thought about this, another question that jumped in to my head was, a lot of states are now coming to the point where they're legalizing marijuana. So, you know, that's always been a question that I've gotten, especially with, you know, with a lot of clients, or my take on marijuana and with therapy and with clients. And I think a lot of people or a lot of clients were always thinking that I was automatically, just because of being a clinician and a therapist, that I'm going to condemn it, right? Because it's drugs. I'm going to come up from it in this very stoic, you know, point of view or perspective. And, you know, that's never, for me, never been my stance. You know, I understand the medical benefits of marijuana. And like you said, it's now it's being regulated, right? It's being legally and regulated by the government in a lot of states that are, you know, before you know it, almost all 50 states are going to be, you know, legalizing marijuana. And so what's your thoughts about as far as legalization of marijuana and how that, you know?
I mean, I've always kind of viewed it the same way I viewed alcohol. You know, that's always kind of been the elephant in the room, professionally and non-professionally, that nobody has wanted to talk about, right? So, you know, most people, you know, they know a lot of professional individuals that use marijuana. We know clients that have, you know, managed symptoms of disorders with marijuana, and that's been their preference for years. To me, this is just the field and the law catching up to society, right? Because society decriminalized marijuana a long time ago, and stamped its mental health and overall health effects, the benefits, right? Where really it's really an old debate. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be very honest. I was about to get political. I don't want to do that. But the only people that are really still kind of debating is politicians that have one more race to run, right? Everybody else has made their mind up because the science is clear, right? So when you look at the people that are still saying, you know, that want to point to the Reefer Madness movie argument, you know, where marijuana is going to make you crazy, they have, most of them have a horse in the race, right? You know, they don't want to offend conservative voters or this person, but the science has been there, you know. So for me, marijuana is kind of an old discussion to me. I've seen the medical benefits, and I've always kind of looked at it like alcohol. I got a question for you though.
What's up?
In this article, they said that mushrooms had long-lasting medical and spiritual benefits. So we talked about the medical piece. So you tell me, enlighten me about the spiritual benefits of mushrooms. I don't know where they was coming from. What do you think they was talking about?
I feel like it's related to, you know, that like you said, that trip. You know, I think a lot of people are able to find spirituality in something that helps them. So if you've been able to take, either you're teasing out this active ingredient or it's just magic mushrooms overall, and you found them to be helpful in your depression or your mood or what have you, then I think people liken that to a spiritual concept, right? Because it is going to give you somewhat of a probably an out of body experience. Again, I can't speak from personal experience, but I imagine you're not going to be in the same, you know, thought process or framework that you are when you're not taking the mushrooms. So I can imagine it's kind of similar to a situation where people are using what's it called, the CBD oils,
Mhm.
and using that. So that's what I'm liking the spirituality, because folks have made that a whole spirituality thing, right? Where there's so many different CBD oils, they do it in their own spiritual concept, rituals, all the whole nine, right? So that's what I'm liking that to, for those where I guess where it is legal or people have been practicing it. 'Cause I think in Denver, I believe some folks are already using
Right.
the mushroom
I
thing.
saw
So
that.
that's what I'm guessing, or that's where the spirituality concept or the spirituality piece comes into, where maybe there are different mushrooms and it's different levels and different extent, but that's what I'm thinking.
I,
I mean, it may
I
take
mean,
you on a
listen,
journey, and you know, these mushrooms, from what I heard, they take you someplace.
man, listen. Listen,
I
I don't
don't know
even want to
where they
know.
take you, but they take you
I, I,
someplace.
I don't even want to know, bro. Like my question was just now we ain't even talking about science at this point. We just having a conversation.
Yeah.
I understood the depression and the mood disorder part of it. I didn't understand the anxiety part because I thought like my mind be spinning. So when I first thought of it, I'm like, going on a trip would probably make somebody that has anxiety, it might make them worse. I mean, I don't know. That's what I would think. You know what I mean? I
Depends on
would
the
need
trip.
somebody to explain it to me, you know? What'd you say?
So it depends on the trip.
That's what I mean. Like, but bro, like we all know people who are anxious or are like introverts and they drink alcohol and then they become mass social, right?
Right.
So along that trend, if you're giving somebody mushrooms to deal with their anxiety, are they gonna have to keep taking mushrooms? Like what is it? You understand? Like I understand the depression part of it, right? When you're talking about rewiring the brain, they're talking about lasting effects for years or whatever. I'm just wondering how it works with the anxiety, especially when you're talking about like social type stuff, you know?
I mean,
Because again,
if it's lowering inhibitions, right, the same way how alcohol can do,
mhm.
I mean, maybe it does. That person's more lively, right? Like you said, if it's rewiring things, again, I don't know. You know, that's a good question, but you're obviously not yourself, right? If when you're taking these things, it's altering some form. If it's rewiring, you know, the receptors and transmitters in your brain, you're obviously that's going to have a behavioral effect on you. So if you're usually anxious, possibly about a certain situation, or maybe just overall, you're taking this, that's going to change your stance and your behavior on something. So maybe depending on how much you take, you know, I think that's to be also taken into consideration.
Listen, I don't know because all right. Now listen, when I think about mushrooms, and I'm wrong, but I think about like hallucinogenic drugs, right? So I think about Smokey in the pigeon coop on Friday in the movie Friday. You know what I'm saying? That's what I think about when I think about hallucinogenic drugs. So that's just where my mind goes. That has nothing to do with science. It's just a comment. But I picture somebody experiencing anxiety and then having those symptoms that just take me somewhere else. But again, I know that's not what they're talking about with the science. But I just, again, when you start talking about hallucinogenic drugs, it just sounds weird, you know. But if they have the science to back it up, you know, I'm all for it. But obviously, there's things that needs to be worked out. Like, you know, again, how are they going to regulate it? You know, how can it be done in a controlled environment and stuff like that? You know.
I believe this is also the same ingredient. I could be mistaken, but I believe this is also the same active ingredient that's in Molly, right? So,
Okay.
you know, Molly was a pretty popular drug, and it seemed like a lot of people were having fun on Molly. You know, you go to the club, you know, you want to let loose, you pop them mollies, you're feeling yourself, you're doing all of this and all kinds of stuff. I don't, it doesn't matter how anxious you are about going to the club, you pop that molly, you're feeling yourself, you know. So maybe that's in theory, that's what I'm thinking, because I'm thinking, okay, you let loose when you're doing this trip, but depending on, and the way they synthesize this, and you've been in rooms with folks that have had substance use issues. I mean, these dudes sound like mad scientists, right? The way that they're able, when they were into their vice and how they were, like you would think you're in a room with chemists. The way that they're able to take different forms of these ingredients and either make it solid, make it a liquid, freebase it, all these other different things. Like they take these ingredients and they do what they want. Sometimes they're synthetic, right? So, they're able to manipulate a lot of these different ingredients and these chemicals, and you have different effects. So, like we've seen, crack and cocaine are essentially the same, but you've also seen different reactions with the right, depending on the person. So that's what I was thinking in theory, because I had the same question about the anxiety. But if this is the same ingredient that goes into Molly, you're not anxious when you're on Molly.
I mean, I can totally dig it. But my question is, I don't know when this study came out, but if that is if that is what they're discovering, that illegal drugs, lower people's anxiety and inhibitions, then we knew that for the last 50 years. All you had to do is go to any bar in America or go to any happy hour office Christmas party. You know what I'm saying? Like, I ain't trying to be funny, but we know alcohol and drugs lowers people's inhibition. So somebody who's anxious, or like we said, or more introverted, some people, may become a little bit more social. And so to me, the most important part about this was kind of the depression and the mood disorders. The anxiety part, I'm not saying obviously they wouldn't have included it if it wasn't accurate, but I just got to read up a little bit more about that because it sounds a little crazy to me.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think there's definitely two elements of it. Like you said, you have the chemical aspect as far as the depression and the mood, where they say, quote unquote, getting the brain back to where it is, neurotransmitters and the serotonin levels. I don't put it past any type of drug that can probably rework or rewire some of these things. And then again, like you said, this is a lot of these drugs were not. This isn't news, right? But however, you got to look at the FDA and the government and then the state approval. How are they going to regulate this? AKA, how is the state and the government going to make money off of this?
Right? How they going to make money?
Right. That's and I know that's the reason why it's been a state by state legalization of marijuana, because we got to figure out, okay, it's bad. Wait, we can start making money off of this. All right, let's get the workings. How can we do this?
Oh yeah.
So, so it'll be something to watch, man. It's always good, like this modern medicine and these different various treatments that are coming out, and especially in treatment and in therapy. It's always good to stay up on, these advancements. So we'll stay tuned.
Definitely.
All right. But that's all I got. Anything on your end that you wanted to get across before we roll out of here?
I mean, again, rest in peace to Daunte Wright. You know what I mean? Rest in peace to Adam Toledo. It's too many Black Latinx kids, children being shot. I ain't got no words, man. Like, I'm tired of watching murders on my phone, man. So hopefully we're not talking about another one next week. Because we didn't even talk about all of them.
No, we didn't. We'd be here all day. And with that, I just want to continue to tell people, unfortunately, with all of these events, please make sure you're taking care of yourselves. Unplug if you need to. Don't continue to watch these videos and these snippets that are coming out. Even with the trial that's going on, the testimony. I mean, you're reliving it when you hear these stories and when you're watching it. So please, everyone, stay informed, but balance it out. Because it can be very difficult. It can take a toll on you emotionally and mentally if you're continuing to watch and engage with it. So, stay informed of what's going on out there in these events, but please make sure you're taking care of yourself. Do something. Self-care is big. Again, acknowledgement and heart goes out to the families of the people we're losing way too soon and unnecessarily. So We appreciate everybody being here and listening and watching us. Episode 10 in the books. Listen, watch, comment, subscribe. Again, we're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, and all the other different areas and podcasts that you're able to find your podcast in those platforms, guys. So appreciate you guys listening and watching and being here. All right, Dr. J. Till next time.
Bro. Later.